Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over a quick snowstorm which is going to be moving from parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin into the northeast over the next couple of days. This is that storm for Sunday and Monday. It's going to be a fairly light event. We're not expecting any huge accumulations. The highest accumulations are probably going to be 3 to 5 inches, so really nothing too major. And overnight, the models have really shifted to a weaker storm, but it also has brought that at least initial line of snowfall a little bit further to the south. So if you remember yesterday, I was talking about the storm in my video yesterday, and I was mentioning that if this were to be a weaker storm, you would see the slide to the south, and even if it was a weaker storm, you would still see some snowfall further to the south, and that could even open up an opportunity for a city like Philadelphia to get in on some snowfall. If it were a little bit more of a stronger storm, now it would basically be from anywhere north and west of that major corridor, and areas as far north as Boston might still be in that rain category. So right now we've taken that weaker option. Most of the models are indicating a weaker storm, nothing that's going to be very strong or wound up. But the problem is it's actually too weak, and so it's actually some models have this falling apart before reaching the coast. So we're going to discuss that, talk about whether it will happen or not, and we're also going to give you my snowfall forecast in today's video. That'll be at the end of the video. So here's a look at what the current National Weather Service page looks like. You can see that we do have some flood watches up into Washington. We have some red flag warnings in parts of California, Wyoming, and Nebraska. We also have some freeze warnings up into Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, and Georgia, as well as some more frost advisories for the panhandle of Florida. We have lake effect snow warnings up for 2 counties in Pennsylvania and New York, and then we have winter storm warnings in that pink color for some parts of the Adirondacks, the Green Mountains, and parts of northern Maine, as well as some winter weather advisories, which covers a good chunk of eastern and northern Maine, the western part of New Hampshire, pretty much all of Vermont, even a little bit of northwestern Massachusetts, and then also a good chunk of western and northern New York as well. Yesterday we had a high temperature of 86 degrees in Oceanside, California, low temperature of negative 14 degrees in Peter Sinks, Utah. The highest rainfall report was 2.03 inches in Sabinal, Texas. Highest snowfall report was 7.5 inches, 5 miles west of West Cliff, Colorado, and also yesterday was Thanksgiving, so I hope you guys all did have a great Thanksgiving. So here's what the European model is showing. We're going to take a look at just the European model in today's video in terms of the rain and snowfall. So we're going to time out the European model, and we're going to show you what that one is showing in depth. And then we're going to take a look at what the snowfall forecasts are for some of the other models. If I were to go through each individual model with the same depth and detail, it would be pretty much a 30 or 40-minute video, so it would be way too long. So I'm just going to focus in on the European model, but most of the models are fairly similar, and we're also going to take a look at the snowfall maps for those as well. So we will be breaking those down as well. Here's for Saturday morning. You can see a little bit of snow and mixed precipitation up into Minnesota and Wisconsin. Again, very light at this point. You're going to see that by Saturday early afternoon, it moves into northern Wisconsin. So again, light snowfall for these areas. Really, at most, it's going to be 3 to 5 inches for these spots. Nothing that's going to be awfully major. And then if we move this on a little bit more, you can see how weak this system is. It's barely producing any precipitation, really. We have one low pressure system right here. We have some light snow on the northern end, but you really don't see any defined features. You don't have really anything on the northwestern side, which you would typically see on a stronger storm, which will also cause some complications, especially once you get into this area where it's going to be a little bit warmer, because it's going to be a tough time to get snowfall on the front end of storms. If you ever notice, most of these coastal northeast systems usually have the snow on the northwestern end because that's where the cold air is. So in this case, the cold air is ahead of the system, so it's actually set up like this, meaning that the system now has most of that moisture on the front end of it. But it's also going to be a little bit more of a challenge, again, closer to the coastal areas to get that snowfall if this stays as a front end system. And it's also going to be quite weak, so it is going to have to maintain that energy all the way as it moves through Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan. It's going to have to maintain that energy all the way until it hits the coastal areas. Moving this on to Saturday in the afternoon, we have some of that snow moving into central and southern Michigan. I think some parts of northwestern Michigan, because of lake effect enhancement, could get some places getting up near 3, 4, or 5 inches of snowfall. That is definitely possible. And the other area that I think that could happen is going to be northeastern Ohio, northwestern Pennsylvania, southwestern New York, mainly from lake effect snowfall. There could be some 3 to 6 inch amounts within that area, and that's actually why they put out that lake effect snow warning. Now it's starting to move east of the Great Lakes, so we do have some of that snow into Pennsylvania and Ohio by this point. There will be some amount of snowfall in northern Indiana and northern Ohio from this event. So this is not just going to be confined to areas further to the north. If you live in northern West Virginia, you'll also have some light snowfall moving into those spots, and that's going to continue to move to the east by Sunday very early in the morning. We have some of that snow breaking out into parts of Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania by this point, but it will be very, very light. So really, I'm not expecting too much of this to stick to the ground, especially when you consider that your 32-degree line is right over here. So anything south of this line, you might get some sticking. It's probably not going to stick anywhere that's urban, so you would have to get further out away from the urban centers to get any really accumulation, because it's going to have a tough time sticking to concrete. So really, it's only going to stick to grassy surfaces. Anything that would be wooden, it would probably stick to as well. But you're really going to have to get northwest of that I-95 corridor, maybe just by a couple miles, to get in on some of the snowfall. And then moving this on a little bit more, you can see how weak this system is. So we have two different storms right now. We have one up here. We have another one over here. This storm further to the south started out in Wisconsin, and now it's moving further to the east. This one is diving down from central Canada, and this might spark a little bit more energy into this storm. But at this point, it's a little bit too late, because most of this initial storm's energy has already been depleted from moving across the Great Lakes with little to no support. So by Sunday, early in the afternoon, you still have some snow moving through parts of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, even back through Ontario and Michigan. And then that kind of stalls out. We don't have as abundant of a cold air source at this point, so you might have some mixing issues. But again, it's a fairly weak storm. You might see, again, another resurgence of this by Monday very early in the morning. So some parts of upstate New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, areas like that could get in on some snowfall very early in the morning on Monday. But in terms of accumulation, it's going to be little to no in most of these spots. Here's a look at what the European model is showing for the total amount of snowfall out of the system. Now, this is from multiple storms, so this is going through Monday morning, but most of the snow, which is up here, is from that storm, which is actually happening right now and into tomorrow. So that is not really from this system. I also think that some of this snowfall is a little bit overdone. So you're going to see that personally on my snowfall forecast, I tuned down some of those amounts. The southernmost extent on the European model gets all the way as far south as northwestern Maryland, the border of Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and then right across to the Atlantic. So it is going to cut through some of these states, but in terms of anything that's going to accumulate, you're going to want to get into those darker gray shades where you're getting at least an inch, and that's where you could see some amount of accumulation out of this event. So if you're looking at just that light gray color, if you're within this shade right here, probably not not seeing too much accumulation, but you would want to be in more of the dark gray or even the blue colors to really solidify some accumulation. If we look at the GFS model, again, most of that snow that's up here, not from this system, so I'm not going to include that in my snowfall forecast, but some of that snow which is further to the south into this area is from that snow from the Sunday and Monday storm. And the GFS is a lot lower in the amounts, looking at just 2 to 3 inches. I agree with these amounts a little bit more. I don't think we're going to see anything close to those 10-inch amounts that the European model was bringing out. But you could certainly see some pockets of 4 or 5 or even 6 inches of snowfall, especially in some of these lake effect enhanced regions. And then the Canadian model, the high resolution Canadian model, does show some decent amounts through much of Michigan, looking at 1 to 3 inches, which within much of the state, and then we have that northwestern corner that could get 4 or 5 inches or even more. We also have that area from Cleveland to about Buffalo, which has right around 12 to 24 inches on this model. I think that's a bit overdone as well, but it is still definitely a possibility. And the Canadian model is a little bit further south where it places some of that snowfall on the southernmost extent of the system. So that's also something that is noticeable on this model. Here's a look at what the upper air map is looking like from this event, just to give you a good idea of what we're expecting. We have one system, which is over here. This is going to dive down into the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, and that's going to act as your main system for this event. So that moves in by early on Monday morning. It's down into the interior northeast. It is snowing out ahead of the system, but at a very light clip. It then dives down by Monday morning into parts of the mid-Atlantic and the coastal northeast, and then by Monday afternoon it's offshore into parts of the Atlantic, and eventually it'll move out after that. So this system is just going to be way too weak to really induce anything too severe, and most of the heavy snowfall that you see is going to be around the Great Lakes, mainly from lake effect. The only thing that's going to be impactful from this is going to be the strong winds coming in from the northwest from this system, and for that reason we could have some lake effect snowfall which is enhanced from that actually occurring. So here's a look at my snowfall forecast for this event. I'm expecting less than 3 inches, so anything really any amount of accumulation within this light blue shade, and that's really where I think you could see some amount of accumulation, really probably not a lot, from Sunday through Monday. So again, I'm not including anything that's happening before Sunday in this forecast. Also, I'm not expecting any accumulation or a mix of rain and snow in this pink area, but I do think these areas will see some snowflakes flying. So if you wake up very early on Sunday morning, you might see some flakes flying in parts of the northeast. If you wake up very early on Monday morning, you might see some flakes flying around in parts of New England, in the Ohio Valley. You might see some throughout the daytime on a Sunday as well. So there are some times when you might see some flakes moving around, but in terms of actual accumulation, you're gonna have to get into that light blue region to really get anything significant out of this event, and some of these areas I think might be transitioning from rain to snow on and off throughout the event. So I don't think many of these areas that are especially further to the south will be 100% in the rain or the snow category. 3 to 5 inches of snowfall, and this is actually the highest that I'm going to go on this forecast right now, is 3 to 5 inches through parts of northern Wisconsin, northwestern Michigan, as well as another area from about Cleveland to Buffalo where I have 3 to 5 inches. But I will say, in some areas, if you get in the right zone, if you get in that band of snowfall that's just going to kind of train over one area, there could definitely be some amounts that are 5 to 10 inches throughout some of these lake effect zones. So that would include northwestern Michigan, northeastern Ohio, northwestern Pennsylvania, southwestern New York. But again, it's going to be isolated areas, so I don't think it's going to be a widespread 6+ inches like what the Canadian model is showing. It's going to be some stripes here and there that might get 6 to 10 inches of snowfall, but those are going to be isolated events that are going to be hard to forecast. You can't really forecast lake effect in great detail, especially 3 or 4 days out. So I'm not going to even attempt at making a lake effect prediction, because of course that's going to be entirely localized. It will be really just based on where do these bands set up, and that's something that is pretty much impossible to forecast 3 or 4 days out of an event. So right now, I'm going to keep it as 3 to 5 inches. I might update this forecast tomorrow morning, but right now, 3 to 5 inches over this area. It looks like some areas could get 5 to 10 inches, but exactly where that is, it's going to be somewhere that is going to be lake effect enhanced. Nothing that's going to be 100% from this system is going to cause 6 to 10 inches of snowfall. So this storm alone, if we did not have lake effect, would not even produce anywhere close to 6 inches of snowfall. But with the lake effect snowfall enhancing some of that, you could definitely get some areas above that 6-inch mark. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please consider leaving a like and subscribing, as well as turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.